I thought my husband was overreacting about my coworker. I shouldn't have ignored him. I remember the exact moment everything started to fall apart, and I didn't even realize it. It was a quiet evening, the kind that feels safe and ordinary, when my husband looked at me with a seriousness I had never seen before. His eyes carried something heavy, fear, maybe even heartbreak, but I brushed it off as overthinking. I smiled, reassured him, and told him he was imagining things. I wish I had listened. Backhand index pointing right before we dive deeper. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support means everything and helps stories like this reach more hearts. The truth is, I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would ignore the one person who loved me the most. My husband wasn't a jealous man. He was calm, grounded, and always trusted me without question. That's why when he first mentioned my coworker, I didn't take it seriously. I thought it was just a small insecurity, something that would pass with time. But it didn't. At first, my coworker seemed harmless. He was charming in a way that made everyone feel comfortable. He knew how to make people laugh, how to listen just enough to seem caring, and how to step in exactly when someone needed help. At work, long hours turned into shared coffee breaks, small conversations turned into inside jokes, and slowly, without me realizing it, a line began to blur. My husband noticed it before I did. He would ask simple questions, not accusing, just concerned. He would watch me carefully when I mentioned my coworker's name. There was no anger in his voice, only a quiet discomfort that I chose to ignore. I convinced myself that I was doing nothing wrong. After all, it was just friendship. Wasn't it? But deep down, something had already started to shift. Life at home began to change in small, almost invisible ways. The warmth we once shared started to fade. Conversations became shorter. The laughter that once filled our evenings slowly disappeared. My husband tried, he really did. He planned small dinners, asked about my day, and made efforts to reconnect. But I was always distracted, always somewhere else in my mind. And that's when he started to withdraw. It wasn't sudden. It was gradual, like a light dimming slowly until you realize you're sitting in darkness. He stopped asking questions. He stopped expressing concern. He stopped fighting for attention that I wasn't giving him anymore. And instead of seeing that as a warning, I saw it as relief. I thought things were finally normal again. At work, things with my coworker became more intense, not in an obvious way, but emotionally. He knew exactly what to say when I felt stressed. He noticed the smallest changes in my mood. He made me feel seen in ways I didn't realize I was missing. And without realizing it, I started depending on that attention. But what I didn't understand was that attention without boundaries can become dangerous. One evening, I came home later than usual. It had been a long day, and I was mentally exhausted. I expected the usual quiet house, but something felt different. The lights were dim, and my husband was sitting alone, staring at nothing. There was a stillness in him that made my heart skip. For the first time, I felt something was truly wrong. He didn't look angry. He didn't look upset. He looked broken. That night, something inside me shifted. For the first time in months, I saw the damage I had caused, not through betrayal, but through neglect, through emotional distance, through choosing someone else's attention over my own husband's love. But even then, I was too late to fully fix it. Days turned into weeks, and my husband became someone I barely recognized. He was quieter, more distant, almost like he had accepted something I wasn't ready to face. And the hardest part was that he didn't blame me. He didn't accuse me. He simply let go. That silence was louder than any argument. At work, my coworker continued to be the same, charming, attentive, always there. But something had changed for me. The excitement I once felt started to fade, replaced by a growing guilt that I couldn't ignore anymore. I began to see things more clearly. His kindness wasn't unique. His attention wasn't special. It was something he gave easily to anyone. And suddenly I realized how much I had risked for something so temporary. One afternoon, I saw him laughing with another colleague in the same way he used to laugh with me. The same expressions, the same gestures, the same words. It hit me hard. What I thought was special was never truly mine. And in that moment, I understood everything my husband had been trying to tell me. I rushed home that evening, my heart racing with regret. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I had to try. I had to fight for what I almost lost. But when I walked through the door, the house felt emptier than ever. My husband was there, but something was different. The warmth, the connection, the unspoken understanding we once shared, it was gone. And in its place was a quiet distance that felt impossible to cross. I sat beside him, hoping to say something, anything that could bring us back, but words felt useless. How do you apologize for something that didn't happen in a single moment, but over time? How do you fix something you slowly broke without realizing it? That night, I cried for the first time in months, not because of what I lost, but because of what I almost threw away. The days that followed were not easy. Rebuilding something that has been neglected takes time, patience, and a lot of honesty. I had to face my mistakes, not just acknowledge them, but truly understand them. I had to learn what it meant to be present, to value the person who stood by me when I didn't deserve it. And my husband, he didn't give up. Even in his pain, he chose to stay. Not because it was easy, but because he believed in us. But this time things were different. Trust wasn't automatic anymore. It had to be rebuilt slowly, piece by piece, and I was willing to do whatever it took. I started showing up not just physically but emotionally. I listened more, I cared more, I became aware of the small things I once ignored. And slowly, very slowly, I began to see a change, not a dramatic one, not a perfect one, but a real one. The silence between us started to soften. The distance began to shrink. And one evening, for the first time in a long time, we laughed together again. It wasn't the same as before, it was better, because this time it was built on understanding, on growth, and on a lesson I would never forget. Sometimes the biggest mistakes aren't the loud, obvious ones. Sometimes they are quiet. They happen in small moments, in overlooked feelings, in ignored warnings. And by the time we realize them, it almost feels too late. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: if there is still love, there is still hope. Speech balloon. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever ignored someone who truly cared about you and later realized your mistake? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else. And if this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Tell me, what country are you watching this from? I'd love to see how far this story reaches across the world. Globe showing Europe, Africa.